kind of free. We're still the kids we used to be.
What is the deal, beautiful people? My name is Ramon. This is Lifestyles Defined. And on this channel, we talk about photography all day, every day. And today we are talking about the wonderful, the beautiful Fuji X-T2. Wow, what a tool to use. Of course, I started my exposure to the Fuji world with the X Pro 2, and there's a lot of similarities here. But ultimately, the X Pro 2 left such a pleasant taste in my mouth that I had to go out and get the X-T2. And it was a tough choice between the two. Yes, you know, the X Pro 2 is the better looking of the two, in my opinion, I should say. But the X-T2 was, I guess, the newer camera. So that's what I went with. A lot of Fuji's DNA is here, or at least what they're known for. One is how much of a joy the camera is to use. And this is something that I can't ever... I can't get this point across to you in a video. You've got to go out there to your local camera store, Best Buy, wherever, and you have to hold a Fuji camera to really and truly understand the work, the thoughtfulness that goes into how they put these cameras together is just mind-blowing, and it translates into an almost addicting experience when using a Fuji, mainly because there's no need for you to dive into menus. Your ISO is on a dial. Your shutter speed is on a dial. Your aperture is on a dial on the lens. Like, it's crazy. Your drive modes, are there physical buttons here for the drive modes? The metering modes have physical switches. This camera is so well thought out, and I feel like this is for the medium range to expert photographer who is so much more comfortable in their zone and wanted to take it to another level where you can assign a click to your workflow. And what I mean by that is, mostly when I'm out shooting, I shoot either aperture or shutter. Very rarely do I shoot manual, and I use auto ISO. So for me, I usually don't take my eye away from the viewfinder, and I don't really rely on the information in the viewfinder because it's a tactical feedback. So if I'm at 2.8, 1, 2 means I'm at f4. 3 means I'm now at 5.6. And it's such a liberating feeling that I can't quite get across in the video, but trust me, it's good. So I picked up my X-T2 with the 18 to 55 2.8 to 4 kit lens. Very strange lens when talking about that 2.8 to f4. So most kit lenses will actually be a 3.5 to 5.6. This guy goes all the way down to 2.8. Now, most zoom lenses that go down to 2.8 are a constant 2.8 across the board. Here, if I rack it out to anything but the 18, which is mostly, if you apply the crop factor, it's kind of like a 28. So it's a 28 to 70. Anything but the widest focal length, and it goes out to f4, which isn't bad because the bokeh that I get, the bokeh, the creamy depth of field, and the separation when I rack it out at f4, totally acceptable. So much so that most people can't even tell what I'm shooting it with. They ask, what prime is that? And for a kit lens, my God, I was shocked. In fact, I was so shocked after the third time shooting with this lens, I had to go and do some research. There's no way this kit lens is this good. And then I come across a few articles about how this is one of the best kit lenses ever created. No doubt, that is gospel, believe you me. Now, you guys know I'm not the super tech nerd reviewer because I don't care. What's more important to me is not the specs of the camera, but the features of the camera and how they sort of aid me to execute my vision, my photography. And there are a few things here that this camera does exceptionally well that just plays into my type of photography. And if you don't know me by now, at Ramon Trotman on Instagram. You can check my work out. I do a lot of street stuff and some portraits, and this camera is right up my alley. So there's the dual memory card slots. As I get more requests to do weddings, and you know, I feel like all photographers, or maybe it's just me, you have that fear like, no, I won't be responsible for ruining your wedding, no thank you. But lesser on that side and more of the gear side. It takes time and money to really get up the gear, and for me, a huge part of the gear to qualify you to shoot a wedding is a camera with dual memory card slots, obviously for redundancy, and this guy has it. There is the weather sealing. Okay, there's a peace of mind if you're out in a hurricane for God knows what reason. Chances are you'll be okay, hopefully. There's a silent shutter that's also there. Super dope. I've been in situations, even particularly in a church, and using my A7, and my God, people just turn around like, oh, I guess there's someone here with a professional camera. So silent shutter is definitely a plus, and something that I haven't used it yet, but I will be taking advantage of that at some point. There are a ton of autofocus modes on this guy, most of which I will never use because I'm just sort of a center focus guy, real small autofocus point, and I recompose. But a lot of you who are into the tracking and you got kids running around, or maybe you want to shoot some sports photography, because this guy has a ridiculously high shutter speed. I think it's 1/8,000th. Like there's an autofocus mode to help you out there. So that's super dope. In terms of image quality, I was shocked at the type of images I was getting from this guy. Sure, it could be, the Fuji fans will tell you, it's that X-Trans processor, and they're very proud of that hipster processor, which, I don't know, it does, the way it processes the red, the blues, the greens are different than everything else in the world. Okay, fine. I don't think it makes it any better, maybe. So, given that, and then the lens combination, the images that I get out of this guy are quite frankly stunning. And I have been enjoying the ability to crop. And I know it's not a full frame sensor, but I can crop a ridiculous amount and still maintain detail. So that's good. That's something that I generally can't do in my Micro Four Thirds, which is what I roll around with, or used to roll around with for a long time for my street stuff. So that's pretty cool. The Jpegs that come out of this camera are annoyingly good. What I mean by annoyingly good is you look at the JPEGs and they're almost perfect. They almost require no editing. The color science, if you will, is spot on. The colors are amazing. And then you get in Lightroom, and the goal now is to beat the JPEG. And it took me a while. Like, holy crap. But once you dial it in and you figure out, okay, the color palettes you're playing with and the profiles to assign in Lightroom, these images are amazing. If not for your composition and your subject, the colors that this camera renders are just mind-blowing. And I can honestly say, I have now become a fanboy of Fuji's colors. And I've long heard this. Yeah, Fuji's got the best colors. I'm like, yeah, all right, whatever. Who cares about colors? That's why we have post-processing. But guys, wow. Seriously, wow. The last note I want to touch on in a very positive way is something that will shock you if you're not clued into Fuji and what they do. So the day I bought the camera, it took me almost an hour to decide. First, should I buy it? Should I not buy it? Then it was okay. I had the X Pro 2 in my hand, and I had the X-T2. And ultimately, I went, again, like I said earlier, I went with the X-T2 because it was just a newer camera. But I was actually waiting for snow to get out of work so we could just take a walk, catch up, do some photography. And I was going through my feed for the day. And lo and behold, that same day I bought this camera, Fuji released the 4.0 firmware. Boom. Like my mind was blown because I had heard that they had this no camera left behind policy. And no sooner than 2 hours after I purchased into the system, there's an update. And that update was no slouch. First of all, it gave me 120 frames per second slow motion. Everything I now shoot is in slow motion. Like Dave Chappelle said, everything is just better in slow motion. It gave me the F-Log profiles that I don't really use. And apparently F-Log was there, but you needed a grip for extra power. Okay, fine. Now you can record it, no issues. They fixed the autofocusing mode, and there was some focus stacking stuff that they added. I couldn't believe it. And then a few weeks later, they came out and said, guys, we kind of screwed up on that firmware. They rolled it back, and then 2-3 weeks after that, they repackaged the firmware and brought it out. So there's this interesting level of trust that I now have to Fuji. Even if they fuck it up, they'll fix it in a timely manner. And then even if they don't fix it in a timely manner, you still need to get on your couch and applaud these guys for even giving firmware updates. That's crazy. So now this almost 2-year-old camera is going pound for pound with the best and latest camera that they have on the market, give or take a few features, because it's by and large the same sensor. And I think that's super dope. I think it's super commendable. And I love Fuji for doing it. And I don't understand why these other manufacturers don't behave like this. But there are some downsides to the Fuji system, many of which don't affect me, but I have to tell you about them because they are real. First, these RAW files, and this probably isn't related only to Fuji, but these RAW files, the uncompressed files, are huge. And so are the files coming out of my A7 II when I shoot uncompressed. But I find that the Fuji files are quite a bit larger by almost 8 to 9 megabytes. And they kind of slow Lightroom up a little bit. That's okay. It's just something to know for you guys out there who are super in the workflow. I don't care. Give me my quality. I'll deal with it. There's something out there called watercoloring issues in Lightroom. And what that is, I've seen so many examples of this in real world, and I can say it's real. Something about Adobe's algorithm doesn't play nice with the raw files created from Fuji's X-Trans processor. So vegetation looks a little effy and not as sharp as it should. A lot of the Fuji fanboys will tell you, oh, you need to use some other crazy software I've never heard of. Well, lucky for me, which was a big deal in me keeping this system and actually adapting it, I don't shoot that much flowers and trees, and so I haven't really noticed the issue. But again, I refuse to change my workflow because of like, no. I mean, it would be nice if Adobe would fix it, but if it was really a bother for me, I would not have kept this camera. And I think you guys need to be honest with yourself. If you know you shoot a lot of landscape stuff and trees and whatnot, this is something to watch out for. Do your research. Watercolor issues with Lightroom. Do your research. Don't get caught out there. Then there's this one's super weird. Fuji's cheating on their ISO. Now, apparently what they do is it's so strange to explain. Is it underexpose their ISO? So when the camera is saying, okay, it's at a 400 ISO, it's really at 200. So the ISO rating isn't really accurate, true to life. And this drives some people crazy. I don't care. Like, just use the camera. This to me feels a lot like the Micro Four Thirds argument, where people never use the camera, but they do the math and they say, oh, it's garbage. That's trash, straight trash. Like, I don't care if I have to times my ISO by 2 or 4 or my crop factor by 5. Like, I don't care. I'm using a camera. Whatever the hell the setting says on the camera is what I use. And I'm exposing based on, 1, the exposure meter on the camera, or 2, the histogram. As long as my light is fine, I don't care what ISO this thing is working. Of course, with respect to noise. But this is one of those things where it's like, guys, who cares? Just shut up. Maybe because Fuji is coming off a little bit nefarious here, and they're claiming that they have the cleanest ISO in the business, when really they're not. They're just fudging the numbers. You decide. Overall, there's a lot about the Fuji that I think is dope. I think by far it is the most engaging tool in my toolbox. And if you're new here, you may not know, but right now I'm shooting on a Panasonic G7. It's just my video. I do photography there. I've got an Olympus OMD EM10 Mark II. That's my Street Warrior. I've got an A7 II. That's my professional camera. So I even got an NEX 5T that used to be my Street Warrior. So I've got a lot of different options and different styles of cameras, and out of all of that, I feel like the Fuji it just feels like a part of me, an extension of me, and it does a great job at keeping me engaged. I mean, looking at it just makes me want to go out and shoot. Very attractive, very functional, very capable camera. There's a lot of stuff about it. Again, I'm not a big spec nerd, but if I ever want to go out and buy an on-camera flash for this guy, it's good to know that most of their stuff supports high-speed sync, so you don't got to worry about how to piece all these crazy Chinese parts together to get that feature going. But yeah, there's a lot about the Fuji that I just find is super dope, and it is now my favorite camera. I highly recommend it, not only because of its potential, but the fact that the company themselves stand behind the product. My God, I'm in love with this X-T2. Thank you for stopping by. Like the video if you like it. Join the fun in the comment section down below. I welcome all feedback. Any questions you guys may have, I'm happy to help. And do me a favor, subscribe to the channel if you're digging what's happening. Also, check out the website, lifestylesdefined.com. We recently launched our merch. Off to the right of the website, you'll find a link to our store. Check out the designs, see if there's anything there that you like. My name is Ramon. I'm out of here. Peace.